They once worked together a long time ago. They're not friends now. They don't like each other. And yeah, 50 has taken every shot, especially when Diddy has been.
Did Phil explain why he's speaking out now?
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator. He wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked.
They told us this would never see the light of day, that the footage was too explosive, the legal threats too severe, the stakes too high for anyone to dare release it. But somewhere between a betrayal inside Diddy's inner circle and 50 Cent's ruthless patience, the one recording that was meant to stay buried forever just went live. And let's be honest, no one saw this coming. Not the lawyers. Not the PR teams. Not even Diddy himself. December 1st, 2025. And the most powerful man in hip-hop is no longer calling the shots from a penthouse. He's watching his own downfall unfold on screens and TVs, frame by frame. While the rest of us finally see what happens when the king of control loses the one thing he could never afford to give up, the narrative. This isn't just a documentary, it's a public execution. And the worst part? The man holding the knife isn't a prosecutor. It's his oldest enemy.
In front of this and tried to persuade Netflix not to come forward with it. I think it's an interesting argument because what they're claiming is, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, has had a long-standing, animosity against Diddy and sort of vice versa. And because he's at the helm, they're arguing this can't be taken seriously. This should sort of be seen as propaganda. And one of the things that Netflix hit back with was, yes, he's the executive producer. He doesn't necessarily have creative control. And that's
The cease and desist landed the day before Sean Combs' Reckoning was set to premiere. His lawyers didn't mince words. This wasn't just a copyright dispute. They called it a shameful hit piece, built on stolen footage never meant for public eyes. The material in question? Private recordings of Diddy during the 6 days leading up to his September 2024 arrest. Strategizing with his legal team, venting about losing control, demanding solutions from people he once trusted. This wasn't just behind-the-scenes access. This was the unfiltered panic of a man who knew the end was near. Captured by cameras he himself had ordered to document his every move. The ultimate irony? Diddy's obsession with controlling his image became the very tool of his undoing.
So he put his hands on females, put his hands on producers, executives. That's just his. I guess that's what the whole name Bad Boy comes from. That people don't really understand. What is it? What is a bad boy? Why did he choose that name? He never really gave a clear definition of how he feels about that.
The footage didn't just leak, it spread like wildfire. Clips surfaced online within hours, showing Diddy in a hotel suite, pacing, snapping at his attorneys, muttering about finding operatives who dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business. One segment, in particular, went viral. Him recoiling after greeting fans in Harlem, muttering about needing hand sanitizer. As if the very people who once adored him had suddenly become contaminants. The contrast was brutal. Public charm versus private disdain, all within seconds. His legal team argued this was a violation of attorney-client privilege. Private war room tactics exposed. But the damage was already done. The man who built a career on meticulous image crafting had been caught on tape unraveling, and there was no spinning this. Netflix didn't flinch. The response was swift. The footage was obtained legally, the rights secured, the sources protected. Director Alexandria Stapleton doubled down, pointing out the obvious. Diddy had spent decades filming himself, creating an archive of his own downfall. He wanted someone behind the scenes with him, she told Tudum. Now, the world is behind the scenes. The documentary team says they reached out to Combs' legal team for comment multiple times. Silence. Now, with the footage public, his lawyers are suddenly very vocal. Too late. The narrative has shifted from if the allegations were true to how deep the betrayal really went.
That I have about the documentary, man, it was just old news, and they took a couple of with the footage from Puff from the days that's leading up him to get arrested, and the incidents with the people from the courts, the two people from the courts. So it was nothing new.
The cameras rolling in those final days weren't some rogue operation. Diddy had hired a documentarian, Michael Oberle, to chronicle his life for more than 2 years. Footage intended for his eventual comeback story. But in December 2024, Oberle dropped a bombshell. The leak didn't come from him. It came from someone inside Diddy's own circle. A third party who covered for Oberle for just 3 days while he was out of state. 3 days was all it took. Someone saw an opportunity for money, revenge, or sheer chaos. And handed the most damning material straight to 50 Cent's team. Oberle called it a breach of integrity. The rest of the world called it karma. And then there's 50 Cent, the architect of this public execution. He didn't just produce the documentary. He weaponized its release. The ABC interview promoting The Reckoning wasn't an accident. It aired on Good Morning America, one of the few networks broadcast in federal prisons. 50 knew exactly where Diddy would be watching.
Freed were in the unit that was 1 floor above mine. So in terms of like the setting, it's a fairly decent chance that the room I'm describing is similar to where Diddy is. Yeah.
By December 8th, he was openly mocking the strategy on Instagram, posting memes about prison TV access. Turning pettiness into a masterclass in psychological warfare. This wasn't just about exposing the truth. It was about making sure Diddy had no escape from it. Not even behind bars.
Look at how many people he affected negatively. That was his trade-off to gain what he had. His former bodyguard, Gene Deal, said he seen him doing a ritual where they dove. What is that? And I feel like it's being overlooked because they see him doing the dance moves with the baggy clothes. Some of the ladies in his videos were trans.
The documentary didn't just rehash old allegations, it placed them in a new, inescapable context. Take the white parties. Those legendary, invite-only bashes where A-listers like Justin Bieber and Mariah Carey once rubbed shoulders with industry titans. Behind the glamour, neighbors had called police 14 times over 7 years. Reporting lost, disoriented guests stumbling into the streets at dawn. But the footage went further. It tied those events directly to the lawsuits piling up. A 16-year-old alleging coercion in 1998. A security guard claiming he was incapacitated and assaulted in 2006. A former adult film performer describing grooming across multiple events. The pattern wasn't just disturbing, it was systemic. And Diddy's own words, caught on tape in the days before his arrest, suggested he knew the walls were closing in. "We're losing," he told his lawyers. "Not if. We are." Then came the family betrayals. On December 6th, Janice Combs, Diddy's 85-year-old mother, broke her silence. Calling the documentary's claims about her parenting deliberate lies. She portrayed herself as a devoted single mother who worked 4 jobs. To give her son every opportunity. But the footage told a different story. In a resurfaced clip from inside the actor's studio, she casually joked about giving Diddy a lot of beatings as a child. Laughing alongside him. The contradiction was stark. The loving matriarch versus the woman former Bad Boy executive Kirk Burroughs claimed he saw Diddy slap in a 1991 hotel room. Allegedly calling her a derogatory name after the City College tragedy. Janice denied it all, labeling Burroughs a liar with a financial motive. He's been suing Diddy since 2003 over Bad Boy Records ownership. But the question lingered. Why would someone fabricate such a specific, humiliating detail? Unless they'd actually witnessed it?
And so the judge, again, seemed to be taking that matter pretty seriously and just pretty much said that, everyone, the attorneys, the witnesses' attorneys, the accusers' attorneys, they all have to adhere to these professional rules. They all have to adhere to this professional conduct. And if this continues and if more things are said that get onto the
The documentary didn't stop at the past. It dragged the present into the light too, including the moment Diddy's own security team turned on him. Roger Bonds, his former head of security, spoke on camera about the trauma of working for Bad Boy. The things he'd seen that he couldn't unsee. His voice cracked as he described the environment. "It wasn't just Sean that's guilty," he said. "They're all guilty." Meanwhile, Quay from Day 26 broke down in interviews, describing cryptic emails about sacrificial rituals. Waking up in Diddy's twins' bedroom after blacking out. Cameras rolling as he screamed. The group's lawyer had no comment. They didn't need one. The footage, the tears, the raw fear in his voice said enough. And then there's Usher. The man who lived with Diddy at 13. The same Usher who once told Howard Stern about the very curious things he witnessed. Doors opening onto encounters no preteen should ever see. Parties that blurred into something darker. He joked on air about never letting his own kids near Puffy Camp. Now, with Diddy behind bars, those old clips carry new weight. Usher hadn't just seen the lifestyle. He'd seen the machinery behind it.
Out and collect everybody's phone. So now it's just your word against a billionaire. You're gonna lose. Read this right there from that young.
Let's start with the family, because that's where the contradictions cut the deepest. Janice Combs, Diddy's mother, has spent weeks denying the documentary's claims about her parenting, calling the allegations deliberate lies, painting herself as a devoted single mother who worked 4 jobs to give her son a better life. But her own words undermine that image. In the resurfaced Inside the Actor's studio clip, she laughs alongside Diddy as she admits, he got a lot of beatings, too. Not exactly the portrait of nurturing love she's trying to sell now. And then there's Kirk Burrows, the former Bad Boy executive, who claims he saw Diddy slap Janice in a 1990 hotel room after the City College tragedy, allegedly calling her a name no son should ever use. Janice calls Burrows a liar, insists he's only after money. After all, he's been suing Diddy since 2003 over his stake in the label. But here's the question. Why would a man invent something so specific, so humiliating? Unless he'd actually seen it? And if he did see it, what does that say about the environment Diddy grew up in? And the one he later recreated for others? Because this isn't just about Janice. It's about the household she ran. Tim Patterson, Diddy's childhood friend, described parties at the Combs home. That sounded less like family gatherings, and more like meetings of a crime syndicate. Pimps, dealers, alcohol flowing freely. All while a young Diddy watched and learned. Patterson said it was like living in a movie. Except the movie never ended. And if that's where Diddy's understanding of power and control was shaped, is it really a surprise that decades later, his own infamous white parties mirrored the same chaos? The same blurred lines between celebration and exploitation. The same unspoken rule that everyone inside those walls played by his rules. No questions asked.
In the book, Porter allegedly recounts discovering and making copies of the tapes that Diddy made of himself having with young boys that he was managing, including an alleged tape involving an 18-year-old pop star.
Because if a woman who'd been in his inner circle for a decade could finally break her silence, what was stopping anyone else? And that's the real reckoning here. This isn't just about Diddy's actions. It's about the machine that protected him. The lawyers who quietly settled cases. The labels that looked the other way. The artists who stayed loyal because the alternative was career suicide. Take Quay from Day 26. He broke down in interviews, describing cryptic emails about sacrificial rituals. Waking up in Diddy's twins' bedroom after blacking out. Cameras rolling as he screamed. His trauma isn't just personal. It's a metaphor for what happened to so many others. The group's lawyer never commented. They didn't need to. The footage of Quay's tears said everything. And now, with the documentary finally giving these stories a platform, The question isn't just what did he do? It's who helped him do it. And who might still be helping him now. Because now, we have to talk about the money.
Lawsuit specifically challenges allegations suggesting that Mr. Combs and his involvement in the 2018 of his former partner Kim Porter, whose passing was officially attributed to natural causes by the Los Angeles County.
Kirk Burroughs isn't the only one suing. Former associates, ex-employees, even family members have spent years in legal battles over stakes in Diddy's empire. And now, with the empire crumbling, those lawsuits aren't just about justice. They're about recouping losses, making sure that if Diddy goes down, they don't go with him. Look at the timing. The documentary drops, and suddenly, people who've stayed quiet for years are speaking out. Coincidence? Hardly. This is the sound of people cutting their losses, rewriting their own roles in the story, and making sure they land on the right side of history, or at least, the right side of a page. And then there's the footage we haven't seen yet. If the pre-arrest recordings were this damning, imagine what else is out there. Diddy's been filming himself obsessively since he was 19. Every party, every meeting, every late-night strategy session. The documentary team has hinted there's more. A lot more. And if the sources are right, it's not just Diddy on those tapes. It's the people around him, the ones who laughed at the jokes, turned a blind eye. Maybe even participated, the ones who still have careers to protect. So ask yourself, how much are they willing to pay to keep those recordings buried? And what happens when the price gets too high, or when someone decides to pay out? Betrayal is worth more than loyalty. Because here's the thing about power, it's only as strong as the people willing to enforce it. And right now, Diddy's inner circle isn't just cracking, it's turning on itself. Roger Bonds, his former head of security, broke down on camera talking about the trauma of working for Bad Boy. The things he saw that he can't unsee. It wasn't just Sean that's guilty, he said. They're all guilty. And if a man who was paid to protect Diddy is saying that, what are the people who weren't on the payroll going to reveal next? The road managers? The assistants? The artists who got their start under his label but left with stories they've never told? The documentary might be over, but the reckoning is just getting started. And let's not forget the biggest question of all, who's next? Because Diddy didn't operate in a vacuum. The white parties weren't just his events, they were industry events. The emails about sacrificial rituals weren't sent to himself. The lawsuits don't just name him. So when the FBI raided his homes in 2024, what else did they find? Who else's names were in those files? And how many of them are sweating right now, wondering if their own pasts are about to become public? The documentary might have been about Diddy, but the fallout won't stop with him. This is bigger than one man. It's about an entire era of music where the rules were written by people who thought they'd never face consequences. And now, the rules have changed. So where does that leave us? With a man in prison, a family in denial, and an industry holding its breath. Footage that's already rewritten history, and more tapes that could burn what's left to the ground. Artists who once owed everything to Diddy now pretending they barely knew him. And fans, wondering how much of the music they loved was built on something darker. The documentary gave us answers, but it left us with even more questions. What happens when the last loyalist turns? When the final NDA expires? When the next tape drops? Here's one thing we know for sure, Diddy's not the only one who should be nervous. If this much came out when he still had power, imagine what's coming now that he doesn't. So tell us, how far do you think this goes? Are we watching the fall of one man, or the unraveling of an entire system? And when the dust settles, who's going to be left standing? Drop your theories in the comments, because this story is far from over. And as always, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and never forget. The loudest secrets are the ones nobody wanted you to hear. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, all.